Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us in our second ABSA webinar titled Leading Through Change. It is good to catch up with you all, and I hope you're keeping safe, observing all the preventative guidelines issued by the Ministry of Health, and just keeping safe. During these moments, we remain united with fellow Kenyans and are committed to continue playing our role as a leading financial institution. But even more importantly, we remain resolute on helping our customers navigate through these difficult times presented by COVID-19. Forums such as this one day are helping us to reach out to our customers and in a bid to understand how best we can continue meeting their day-to-day needs and long-term needs, especially considering the unfortunate circumstances we find ourselves in. Today's program has been put together by a partnership between Absa Bank and Gracia Machel Trust. The partnership has allowed us to leverage on our combined experience of capital allocation and technical assistance. First and foremost, I'd like to thank very much Dr. Shungu Kwawinda, the acting CEO of Gracia Machel Trust, for joining us today, followed by Carol Musyoka of Carol Musyoka Consultancy. Thank you very much, ladies. And our very own MD, Jeremy Awori, Absa Bank Kenya PLC. Just to set the tone, I picked a saying and a words of wisdom from a leadership guru, John C. Maxwell, who says, there's an opportunity in every crisis. How to get better in this crisis is a key thing that we need to learn. So therefore, is everybody a leader? Yes, because leadership is influence. And as influence, you can be an influencer as a parent, a business owner, a church organizer. Anything that speaks to influence is a leader. Therefore, welcome very much to this particular program because it does speak to you. It speaks to everyone who can listen in on leading during this crisis opportunity. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I know it will be insightful. It will be insightful because we have very able panelists who have joined us today. And I think you will be able to know something or learn something during this session. Thank you very much, Andia, and over back to you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for that introduction. I will be sort of doing the introduction on behalf of Dr. Shungu Kwawinda, who is with us, but experiencing just a little bit of technical issues. I just wanted to introduce the Gracia Machel Trust, which is our vision is to nurture caring societies that value social justice and promote the rights of women and children. We have the pleasure of celebrating our 10th anniversary this year. But as we celebrate, we have to recognize that the world is going through an unprecedented crisis. And as we look towards our partnership with ABSA, we are keen to support the needs of small and medium enterprises so that those enterprises can succeed during this particular season. Leading through change is not a new phenomenon. The adage, the only constant in life, in this case in business, is change, because change is inevitable. However, the current context of the COVID-19 pandemic has thrust the entire globe in this unprecedented situation, which really requires rapid action and presents a horizon of uncertainty as we journey through it and look to recover and reconstruction. In many ways, businesses are in uncharted territory. So in light of that, we have put together a very strong leadership experts that we can go through and talk about how to navigate this period of uncertainty. I would just like to take you through a few housekeeping rules. We just have, we can just change the slide. And in terms of the housekeeping, just knowing that we are having questions that will be asked at the very end. We are having this webinar is being recorded, so you will be able to get a recording after the event is complete. Please be sharing your comments as it goes along, but there's a specific box for questions. And if you think of a question, ask to it, and we will have quite an elaborate question and answer section. I would now like to introduce, go to my speakers who will basically introduce themselves And I'll start first with Jeremy Awori. We know him, but we also don't know him. He's the Chief Executive Officer of ABSA Kenya, and I'll have Jeremy just have a few introductory words about himself. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Andia, for that. My pleasure to be here today on this webinar. I think for us, this whole pandemic has been something which obviously caught us as a business. I would say not by surprise, but I think the extent of the pandemic on the business was obviously swift and severe, and obviously not something that I think any business could really have planned for. And I think the reason why I say that is a lot of businesses plan for local business continuity challenges, disasters, but this is one which has been not just local, but has been global. I don't think anybody would have anticipated that 6 months ago, most airports would be closed, you wouldn't be able to travel, that there would be concern about whether you're contagious, whether you're bringing in a virus into the country. Most of us have probably not seen such severe lockdowns, meaning people are working from home. And I think all of these have really put management teams and businesses through a very difficult and challenging period. And we as ABSA have really tried to do a number of things, and I'm sure we'll get into it in the conversation, but at a high level, the first thing that we've tried to do is make sure that our colleagues and customers are safe. We're a business, an essential services business, and one of the things we've done is to make sure that our branches are safe where customers come in, our colleagues are operating in a safe environment, and we've made sure we've disinfected those environments, we've provided them with masks, we've provided them with education to make sure that they're equipped to deal with the pandemic. On the customer front, we've also made sure that we've tried to respond to the circumstances in ways that possibly banks haven't responded. We tried to look at the particular challenges that our customers have faced. And on this particular case, we're talking about retail borrowers and our SME and corporate clients. So we put in a number of quick measures. One was to make sure, as a big corporate paying quite a number of suppliers out there, we are paying our suppliers within 7 days if it's less than $1 million shillings, or 14 days, because cash flow is so important to them to be able to pay their bills during this session. We've also given what we call loan repayment holidays, which essentially give you 3 months of reprieve from your loan repayments, because we figure you should be more focused on paying your salaries, investing in your working capital to produce your goods, and just surviving this crisis. And we've given over 30,000 customers these loan repayment holidays or restructuring facilities, and that's well in excess of 30 billion Kenya shillings. So I know a lot of people say, a bank's really doing anything, and this is an example of something we're doing on that front. And then I categorize the last two areas as what is our responsibility as a corporate here in Kenya. And we believe we're a real force for good, and we want to make a difference. And we've done various things working with the government, with the Ministry of Health. We've given over 210,000 masks, both surgical masks as well as the KN95 masks, to doctors and nurses, our frontline warriors, because we need to protect them to be able to look after the sick and not themselves get infected and infect their loved ones. We've also set up programs where we can support through psychosocial counseling those who either in the front line, because the doctors, also nurses and other frontline healthcare workers, are also going through extreme stress, and we often don't think about them. And those who are either in quarantine and or in isolation if they've tested positive to survive this, because mental and emotional stress is actually growing by the day, because we're constrained in tough environments. You know, families are at home, kids are at home, we're trying to work remotely. So we're trying to do that as another program. And we have a series of other things that we're doing. And then last but not least, we're really focusing on making sure our digital and remote platforms are up and are working to serve you. We've waived the fees of transfers, digital transfers to the M-Pesa wallet, to make that easier, so you don't have to handle cash and you don't have to come to the banking hall. But those kind of things hopefully allow you as customers to focus on the other things that are very important. So for us, it's around care, attention, understanding, working together with partners to try and get through this crisis.
Thank you so much, Jeremy, for sharing all the activities that ABSA Kenya has been doing. Carol, it's over to you to give just a quick introduction about yourself, and then sort of leap into the first question, which I will ask now. Just would love to hear your reflections on the current context of the systematic shocks that the COVID-19 pandemic has caused for business, and what challenges has it presented, or could we also foresee in the future? So what is keeping business leaders awake at night?
Thanks very much, Andia. By way of introduction, I'm Carol Musyoka. I run my small little consultancy here with about 10 staff members, and I also sit on a multiplicity of boards in various industries. So I've had the front row seat without the pleasure of popcorn or soda to see the difficulties that each industry, whether it's in the hospitality industry or whether it's in the manufacturing industry or in the travel industry, is actually undergoing during this time. And my sympathies to every single business owner out there. So, Anya, you asked what should every business leader be thinking on right now, and I call it the 5 Ps. It's your people, it's your product, planet, your profit, and your processes. And I'll start with people. And Jeremy started it off very well, talking about what's on his mind as he heads ABSA. It's colleagues and customers. So it's your people and your customers, the ones who are buying your product and who are also leading into your profit. On the people side, this gives any business leader a headache because these are human beings that you're managing. They rely on the salary that you pay them. And this is one time when almost every business leader has had to become very, very familiar with the Employment Act in Kenya. What are they allowed to do? Are they allowed to send people on unpaid leave? Are you allowed to vary contracts with regards to salaries? So definitely having conversations with your lawyer is a useful thing to have right about now, because if you're going to vary salaries because you don't have enough cash flow to pay salaries to the end of the year, you do require your staff to give consent. And at least many of the organizations I've seen, staff have been very amenable. They're just happy to at least still have a paycheck at the end of the month, even though it may be reduced. So getting that consent is absolutely critical. Determining whether this is the time to finish off any leave that wasn't taken last year. What happens when you send people on unpaid leave? What happens to people who are in unions? What happens to pension obligations because do you stop paying the pension? Which are the stakeholders involved? You can't just stop paying the pension. You've got to apply to the Retirement Benefits Authority because that requires a change in the trust deed, in the pension trust deed. So there's just a lot to think about from the people aspect. One key thing that you've also got to be alive to is that if you're in a business where you can't have your staff working from home, are you providing a safe environment for them? I just saw something on Twitter about 2 hours ago about a Brazilian meat plant where 500 staff have gotten infected from COVID because they're working, this is meat packing, so they're working in close proximity to each other. So as a business owner, this should give you some pause. If you're in a business where, especially in a trading business, in a shop where people have to come and buy goods, how are you keeping your staff safe? And are you amenable to a lawsuit in the event that they do get the COVID-19 because you didn't provide a safe environment? So definitely things to keep you up at night. On the profit side, you're definitely worried about your reduced sales. The buzzword, the last 3 months, and the buzzword I've heard is runway. How much runway do you have? And by runway, they mean cash flow. How much cash flow do you have that will take you through the end, if at all there will be an end? As the World Health Organization has said, this is no longer a pandemic, it's going to become endemic. And therefore, this is going to become business as usual, and we're going to have to learn to do business within this environment. Do you have enough runway to pay your staff salaries, to pay your suppliers, and to essentially pay all your obligations within this time? On a processes perspective, this never wastes an opportunity. If at all there's a time to Control Alt Delete, to press that Control Alt Delete button on your business, this is the time, because you've had to literally say stop, pause, let's relook at this business. Are we carrying too much fat? Were there a lot of inefficiencies? Were there some product lines that we should have ditched a long time ago and we just didn't ditch because we had some affinity to them and our customers had shown us a long time ago that they weren't interested? If ever there was a time to make the changes that you needed to make in your business, this is the time. If ever there's a time you needed to go far to introduce more automation, this is the time, because especially within the employment environment where we are having to look very seriously at our staff numbers and whether we are carrying more numbers than we need, this is the time to think about automation. Lastly, from a product perspective is, are our customers happy with our product? Have we engaged them? What are they saying about us? What are they saying about how our service delivery is? Those especially who are in the hospitality industry, in the restaurant business, are really, really seeing a game changer in all of this. You've seen what's going on with the restaurants offering takeaway services. The people who are making the most money right now are the Glovo and the Jumias, because they can pick up your goods and take them out to your customers, and therefore, reduce the need for you to find a distribution for your product. But they are sitting with your data. And as Sunny Binder writes very often, who's going to take your business away from you while you're sleeping? And these two companies, for example, have sitting with all your customer data. They know where your customers live. They know what your customers eat. They know what time your customers like to eat that. And so there's nothing stopping them from starting a central kitchen somewhere. So for example, if chicken wings and pizza are the best thing that go on a Friday night, these delivery companies know that, and there's nothing stopping them from setting up a central kitchen and making the top 5 most popular items. So really rethinking our product proposition and thinking, is it fit for our customers, is critical right now. That's it, Andy.